Hi, Chloe.
Hi.
Thanks for coming along for today's office hour, which is all about how to run content at a scale up with Chloe Dormand, who is Paddle's Senior Content Marketing Manager. And in terms of formats, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the Zoom chat or go on microphone or video. And I've got a bunch of my own here that I'll ask Chloe as well. And yeah, super excited to speak with Chloe because she's worked in content for companies that have grown really rapidly while she's been there. So firstly at GoCardless and now at Paddle, which during her time there since 2020, it's gone through a Series B.
Series C and D.
Series C and D and acquired Profitwell. So it's just grown massively and she's been part of the restructure and being part of content evolving. So it'd be really interesting to hear how you've approached that and what it's like being part of a company scaling so rapidly. But before we jump into the questions, it'd be good to know, Chloe, what Paddle do and what is involved in your role there.
Sure, yeah. So the official line is Paddle is the complete payments infrastructure provider for SaaS companies. And what that means is where perhaps more traditionally people have built their payments infrastructure, their payment stack together. So that could be a tool like Stripe for your payments or Avalara for your sales tax, Zuora or Chargebee for your subscriptions. You can actually do that through Paddle in just the one platform. So that's one integration, one set of costs. So yeah, it's a different way to put that stack together. And obviously having just the one platform will help as you're scaling. So we also manage things like invoicing and fraud protection too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So it does everything all in one. And yeah. What's your role there? What do you do as Senior Content Marketing Manager?
So I'm Senior Content Marketing Manager and I sit within the brand team. So I look after putting together the content strategy for our like editorial, brand awareness and thought leadership content. So in terms of formats, that was things like blogs. I look after our newsletter, any reports that we do. I also work quite closely with our PR agency and any opportunities that they can help us find and getting like speakers for those opportunities as well. And increasingly, we're thinking about how we can distribute our content more effectively across different channels.
Cool. So lots of different bits that you're involved in. I guess, so I'm interested in how you do content just for brand. And I think you've mentioned before that you've got different content people working across different teams. That's how what does the structure look like, I guess, in terms of content across the company?
Yeah, so we have a different structure for content than I've worked in the past. In the past, I've always worked in a centralized content team, and that was the case when I joined Paddle as well. At that point, we were, I think, around 150 people, maybe something like that. So there was myself, a senior strategist who headed up the team, and a writer as well. And we had our own agenda in terms of search and key themes that we wanted to be talking about, but we also took requests from other areas of the business. So we worked closely with demand gen, product marketing, also sales. We're a sales-led business, so they had a lot of requests because at the time we didn't have a sales enablement function either. So we were getting a lot of requests in from them. And what happened is we ended up as like content as a service. Basically, you're an in-house agency for the business, and that is definitely right in some cases. But for us, it just meant we were kind of getting overwhelmed with these requests, and we were never really understanding what created value from what we were producing, because it was just like, we've got this big list, we need to do these things. So when we acquired Profitwell and we inherited basically a ready-made marketing team to come and join our marketing team, it was a good chance to think about the structure. And what we decided to do is split the content into different marketing functions. So now we have me that sits in brand, somebody else who sits within what Profitwell had a shows and media arm already, so we've kept that. And there's a content person that sits in there. So that's specifically on video series and podcasts and things like that. And then we have two content marketers in product marketing. One specifically focuses on the website, which is obviously quite a big job at the minute because we're thinking about what content we should be migrating from Profitwell's website and all of that sort of stuff as well. And then another content marketer in the product marketing team who focuses on middle and bottom of the funnel, kind of more Paddle specific content and messaging and working with the sales team.
And how's the change been? Have you found that to make your job easier? Have you found that's made content more effective?
It's great in terms of like ownership. So I feel like I've got a big area of content to play with. And it's one thing about Paddle is there's quite a lot of permission to test new things, and we're quite focused on audience growth. So we're thinking that's where the distribution comes in. How can we reach more people and build engagement? Obviously, there was challenges in terms of, well, the funnel needs to flow. So actually, you can't have separate strategies. Those things need to be aligned. So what I do is I meet with the people in the product marketing team and say, what are you working on for this quarter, say? And as a marketing team, we do have core themes for the quarter and also core personas that we're going to target as well. So that's how it sort of comes together.
So is that, so across all the 4 different content teams, you have as a united sort of marketing goal as well as within brand?
Yeah, so as marketing, we have themes for the quarter and personas that we want to reach, because we have quite a broad spectrum of customers, because we serve from small business right through to enterprise. And the decision makers within those companies vary, so there's quite a lot of different personas that we need to be reaching. So we can't do them all at the same time. So we try and focus on a few.
So how many do you focus on like each quarter?
So there's not like a set number. It's more on the focus of the business. So this quarter with content, we want to be reaching enterprise businesses a bit more effectively. Quite a lot of the stuff we create kind of because it's what we've done in the past and we've done it well, will hit small business and mid-market, where so that's your CEOs and your founders, whereas now we're looking more FOs and financial leadership, and then more niche or like enterprise specific personas, like a chief revenue officer, for example.
So when you've got like your specific personas in mind for the quarter, how do you then approach coming up with content strategy for that?
So there's a few different things that we do. So we obviously have a product marketing team who can help inform us on the personas. I also have meetings with other content people, but also with the strategic sales team. So they'll tell us about challenges they're facing and personas that they're actually speaking to. There's a lot of people involved in the process, so that can help us understand specific challenges. We all are quite active on signing up to newsletters and reading SaaS news and seeing what the challenges are out there for different ideas. So there's lots of different ways that we kind of plug in. We always, in the back of our mind, we want to be helpful as a brand. So that's what we're always thinking. How can we solve real challenges? How can we actually help the people reading our content? Doesn't have to be selling paddle to them. It's just helping them get better at their job, solve a problem that they're working on.
Yeah, got it. And what do you have targets or ways that you're measured for success in your role?
So with the acquisition of Profitwell and merging of the teams together, it's been more kind of how can we actually get working as one team and get going. But we do have like brand reporting. So we'll look at like click-through rates on brand searches. We'll be looking at organic traffic. We look at referral traffic as well. And one thing that we're keeping a bit of a close eye on is pages per session as well, to see if we're like leading people through, if they're clicking around in our content, because that's part of the helpful side of things, if they're finding it helpful and clicking onto new things. Newsletter signups as well. And I'm going to start hopefully this quarter asking for feedback on the actual content of the newsletter to see if people are actually finding it useful. And then we share like anecdotal wins as well. So if people have been sharing our content on social, or we've had really good engagement with something, we'll talk about that internally.
That's nice that you've still got that it's not just numbers, you're also sharing people's opinion.
Yeah, and we do have obviously we do have a demand gen team who are focused more on leads and pipeline and stuff, which the content does feed into, but it as a target, it sits in that team.
Okay, that's nice. So you don't have the full sales pressure to get leads in from your content, which I think a lot of people at startups always feel the pressure of in content.
Yeah, I've definitely been there before.
Yeah. And so you've been promoted to a senior content marketing manager. What was your initial role when you joined, and how have you managed to navigate into a bigger role? And do you have any tips for anybody that's trying to go down that route?
Yeah, so my original role, we were only a team of 3 then, so we were all very hands-on and still very hands-on in terms of the production, but that was a very core part of my role, just producing content, building up Paddle's content. We had quite a big focus on content specifically for search, so it was like building that out, looking at keyword research and the sort of themes that we should be talking about out there.
And were you writing in that? When you say produce, were you writing that content yourself?
Yeah, I wrote a lot of it, but we did also, because of the volume we were producing at the time, part of it was coming up with briefs and briefing freelancers and then editing that when it came.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, in terms of tips for someone looking to progress, I think the big thing I learned is No one's going to go, you're doing really well, I'm going to promote you to a senior content marketing manager, which I was like, oh, I'm doing well. So I think about what you want from the next step, think about what you're already doing in that role, and then think about where the gaps are, because the likelihood is you're going to have to fill some of them before you actually get the promotion. And open the conversation with your manager and say, this is what I want out of my role, this is where I'm heading, but also try and frame it around what that's going to do for the business. So what's it going to unlock? Is it going to help you, I don't know, increase your traffic, or is it going to help you unlock a new stream of content, or is it going to help you explore new avenues of distribution or something? Just as obviously your company will want to help you progress, but they're also going to want to know the impact that that's going to have ultimately. And then I think, yeah, try and have a project with visibility on it and report on the success of it, and even talk about what went well, what didn't, what you would do differently next time, what you've learned from it. And if you haven't got that big project, look at content that you have created or ideas you've had and how that's done, and bring that forward. And yeah, I've learned a big lesson in like backing yourself. If you're proud of something, don't be shy, tell people that you're proud of it, because the team will celebrate you as well. And it shows people that you are actually achieving things, and you're, you know, bringing more eyes onto your website, etc.
Yes, love that energy.
It doesn't sit naturally with me at all, but I do definitely do it.
Yeah, it's good that you pushed through anyway. So did you go in with a commission to, so you wanted this new role, and then you said what project you wanted to do? Like, I guess, what was the period from when you went in and had the initial conversation with your manager to then getting the promotion?
So mine was a bit different, because we acquired ProfitWell, so there was discussions about what we were doing with the team, but I was sort of saying indirectly that I would like a level up, and then my manager now was like, you need to say what do you want, what are you doing now that is a step up from the role that we hired you to do, what do you want from the role? So she kind of pushed me to be quite direct with it. And the quarter before, I'd had a project where we created a handbook to selling globally, and it was like a really meaty piece of content that did quite well on paid, and we repurposed it quite effectively with pull-out blog posts and like repurposed for social media and stuff. So I kind of had that behind me to say like, well, yeah, I've done this now, which is probably a step up from something that I would have done when I started.
Yeah, that's a nice chunky piece of evidence. Yeah, just spotted Sanna's message. Oh, that was going to be my question. What would you say a content marketer needs in order to progress to a more senior role, i.e. content marketing manager to senior content marketing manager?
I think as part of it as well is remembering that as a content marketer, part of your job is marketing the content. It's so easy when you've got so much to do, you've got a list as long as your arm of stuff that you need to produce. You forget that actually once it's produced, you need to make sure people see it. And you need to, even if it's the primary way you're going to get people on a search, you still need to look at it. Is it working? Do you need to optimize it? If it's something else, you need to work with other members of your team to distribute it effectively. How can you get it in front of the right people? And it's really hard. And it's something that I don't think any content marketer will ever go like, we've got this. We do it really well. Because there's always new channels you can look at. There's always different ways you can repurpose things. But yeah, one of the things that I think is going to become increasingly important, and Amanda Natividad talks about it, is like 0-click content, but like meeting your audience where they are, not expecting them to have to come to your website. And I think content marketers now that really hone in on that and focus on that will get that step up, because it's only going to become more important. Yeah,
great point about the 0-click marketing type content. Do you do much in terms of also promoting content internally to stakeholders? Is that a battle? How do you approach that as well?
So our wonderful social media manager actually got a tool which helps with it so much. It's an employee advocacy tool called Post Beyond, and we used it at GoCardless as well, actually. So I kind of threw it in the mix as part of the conversation. And basically you can use it as like a repository for your content. So we put anything, well, not everything, most things that we produce go in there. We also put any press coverage we get in there, general SaaS industry news. Even you can have stuff that's like private in there. So sometimes if our competitors do something, we can put it in there and people can have it to read. But what it does is you connect it with your LinkedIn, Facebook, and or Twitter account, you can do all three or just one, and you can share content from there in a click. So we put in template posts and people can edit it and share. So we have a distribution channel in Slack where we let everyone know that there's new stuff up, and then they can click through to Post Beyond and either just read it for their own knowledge or share it externally. And now we also have a sales enablement tool called Enablix, which makes it super easy for sales to share stuff in like outreach emails. So it's something that we've put resource behind, but I think it's really important, because otherwise you just share stuff and just get like tumbleweed if people don't know what it's there for. And I always try to, when I share the message, say who it's for, a key point from it. So like if it's something with data in it, I'll share some key data points. Like if it's a case study, you'll say these are the key results in here, and who it's for more broadly. So like an SMB that's looking to expand internationally or something like that, just to help people know how to use it. And if they are like somebody who's really trying to build up their like brand on LinkedIn, they'll know if it fits with the rest of the stuff that they are putting up.
So you're taking like, those extra steps to make it as easy as possible for internal people to share. That's really good and great tool.
So busy, you can't I would love it if I had a read of our blog every day, but they're not going to do that. So
having an awareness of that and then taking action to help them anyway. And Sophia said that sounds super useful.
Yeah, it really is. There's quite a lot of different tools out there, but we use Post Beyond and it's really useful.
That's really good. I'm just going to flick through some of the other questions that I noted. What projects are you working on at the moment?
So the main project I've been working on recently is a data-led report. We have tried to have a look beyond the headlines of like, there's a recession looming, SaaS market is on a downturn. If you raise now, it's going to be a down round. Like everyone's read that stuff. So we surveyed 100 SaaS like CEOs, founders, CFOs, to find out what steps they've actually taken in response to this downturn. So like, have they changed their pricing? Have they rejig their hiring plan, that sort of stuff, and ask them what their priorities are for 2023. So we've turned that into a report that we're releasing at SaaStock next week. So we're releasing the hero asset in 3 different ways. We're going to have it gated initially and a print version at the event, and then we will open it up afterwards. And then we've got some kind of different spin-off assets for distribution. So a launch blog, we're going to do some stuff on social. So that's been taking up the main bit of my time, but we're nearly there now, so I'm excited to see that in the wild.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a good topic. Actual actionable tips about how founders are approaching it.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you developed this report, how have you approached the production of it? Are you the person that interviewed all the 100 people? Are you working with freelancers? How's production?
So we did a survey. We used a platform called Winter, which is like, it's a messaging like testing platform, but you can also do surveys with them. So we got like half of the respondents through there, and then another one, a wonderful person in our digital marketing team helped me pull a list of the right types of people from our marketing list basically, and we surveyed them through Typeform. So that got us to the 100. Yeah, so it was a mix, but it was me. I put the survey together and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Winter was that tool. Lots of good tools we're getting here.
Yeah, it's
another good tool.
Classic scale up that uses a lot of different tools.
And what about stuff like design for a report? How do you approach that? Is that internal designers or freelancers?
We outsource the design for this one. We do have internal designers, but as usual, everyone is very busy. But we send them we have a lot of illustrations and stuff that we've produced in-house, so we just kind of share all of that with the freelancer and they can put it together.
Nice. And do you work closely together with designers, especially because you're working on brand? How do you brand?
The brand team is actually brand and creative. So we actually have in the creative side, there's video producers and design in there. So we're quite spoiled ready to have that resource to tap into.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, you've got your own video editors.
Yeah, it's when the first video person started, I was like, we are spoiled.
Is it quite nice having, because you're at a scale up, a big budget? If you've got a content idea, are you usually able to just tap into lots of different resources?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed a little this year. I have to say, the business case for something has to be there, but it is nice to I definitely feel like we're quite fortunate to have quite a lot, as much as everyone is still very busy, we do have resource in-house to do things like video and design. And if we have an idea like this report that we wanted to do, we have been able to outsource the production.
That's very cool. And Sophia, feel free to jump in with any questions you have at any point, by the way. So, and what's next where do you see your role going in the future within content? So
I think at the minute, what we want to do is ramp up production at the minute, because we just have like one person within each of these functions. We do use freelancers, but it's to use freelancers, you have to find the time to do good briefs for freelancers. So there's a lot of, so I think building that up, and hopefully at some point getting in-house writers and things to help us in that sense. I would like to really help build out our distribution and looking at how we can, I think what we do at the minute is we distribute stuff quite well. It goes on quite a lot of channels. What I think we can do better at is perhaps repurposing the content so it fits more specifically on those channels. And I think having a bit of a playbook and a process to help other people self-serve on that. So if someone's creating something for employer brand, they can easily see what's available to them and what stakeholders they need to go to get stuff put out in different places and stuff like that. So I'd like to the process side of that out of it. Yeah. And what's the current process for distribution? You touched upon it a little bit before, but what does that currently look like? So me and the social media manager work very closely on that, and she has her own strategy in terms of what will go out on, but it's largely a case of what's in our head. So people will come to us and we can kind of help think of ideas for how we might be able to repurpose something, and then where it will go. I obviously do the newsletter on the paddle side, so that we quite often will put stuff out in there. Because we still have the Profit Well side as well, they have their own emails and channels in there. So it's just a case of communicating and collaborating at the minute, really. Whereas it'd be great if we could have a resource where we could say this type of content can go here and so you need to speak to. I would like to get to that point, ideally. Yeah, sounds like a good thing to aim towards. And what's been the biggest difference from working pre-scale up to scale up, and what advice would you have for somebody that finds themselves at a company that's suddenly just growing really rapidly? Yeah, I think you have to be ready for the fact that no day is going to be the same and that things are going to change, and it can be frustrating. That's why I enjoy that thing. I'm not saying I don't get frustrated by it, but I enjoy the fact that no day is the same. But it's hard, and it can be frustrating because you'll be working towards something and then they'll go, oh, we're going over here now. Okay, I'll put that for later when we might come back to it, but we'll go this way now. So I think being ready for that, understanding that as the team grows, you won't be wearing so many hats. When you're in a really small team, you do a bit of everything. As the team grows, it might feel like stuff's getting taken off your plate, but try and view it as an opportunity of this gives you a chance to specialize in something and own it and be really good at it. And it's hard because you can want to go, but I was doing that. That was mine. Yeah. Also, the way you talk about your product might change. The way people perceive your product might change as you get more eyes on it. So one thing about Paddle is we have a really complex product. It's hard to articulate what we do. So while I've been there, we had a set of messaging when I started, and then we did a whole messaging project and came up with this is it. This is how we talk about Paddle. And then it didn't land. So then now, earlier this year when we did our rebrand, we did a whole other lot of messaging, and now that's how we talk about Paddle. And it's quite hard to get your head around, and you have to do it everywhere. So you go through existing stuff to see how you've talked about it before to try and we did it on priorities based on what content was getting the most traffic and where we needed to change it. But yeah, that's it's a big process to go through, but it will happen as you grow. And even if the full messaging doesn't change, if you go up market and start to serve bigger companies, they will want to hear about it differently to a really small business that's just starting out. So the problems become kind of bigger. yeah, you have just more strands and more different things to think about.
So you have to be quite resilient when you're going through big change and scale up. You might be putting loads of work into something and just being like, yeah, it's just going to completely change. Yeah,
it is an interesting, like, it's a strange thing to put yourself into, but I enjoy it, and I find it, I think, be willing to test things as well. I would say, like, be prepared that not everything is going to work, but as long as you learn from it and go, okay, that didn't work, so we can try this next time.
Yeah, that's like embracing the chaos within a bit of a structure. Yeah,
and try and remember that everyone is probably feeling it as well.
Yeah,
I think it's easy to be like, everyone else just seems like they're getting on with it, and what's going on? You can feel sometimes like things move so quickly, you can be like you're chasing your tail a bit, but everyone is probably in the same boat and talk about it. I think one of the things I do like about Paddle is it's not really, especially when we first announced the acquisition, nobody pretended that it was going to be easy or that it was going to be plain sailing. It was like, you have to talk to us because we need to know what's going well and what isn't as we bring these two teams together.
Oh, that's really nice that they gave you a safe space to talk about difficulty. That's very cool. Couple of questions from Sana here. So firstly, how do you tackle the scalability element when working at a high growth business like Paddle, i.e. making sure your content scales over the next 6 months, year, 2 years? What tips do you have for that?
That is a good question. I don't think it's something that we've got exactly right yet, but I think scaling production, I think try and plan ahead. So like, I don't like the term, but people call it like blog fodder. Make sure you have that, because otherwise what will happen is you have a week where you have 3 blogs and then 3 weeks where there's nothing. Yes. So try and space them out. And if they are evergreen or just can be paced out, pace them out. If you've got them ready, I know you want to see it out there and you want to start seeing the results, but you can pace it out, and it just gives you a bit of breathing room if you want to do something that's either a bit more meaty or takes a bit more time, like involves an interview or involves sign off. It just gives you that bit of breathing room around there.
Excellent tip. Love that. I haven't actually heard that phrase, blog fodder.
I can't remember who said it to me. So I think it was back in GoCardless, probably. Yeah, blog fodder, just keeping it ticking over, because I think part of it is consistency, and part of what will help you get repeat visitors is consistency. I do it. If I go on a blog and I see that they haven't posted for 2 months, I'm like, I'll probably click off and find someone that has.
Yeah. Sana said, I haven't heard blog fodder before either.
I'm starting to feel like I made it up.
You've coined the phrase now. That's now yours. I don't think you should do a blog post about it. Question from Sophia. Are you planning on keeping a lot of ProfitWell's content and just migrating it? What will the approach be for that? So
I will probably do a not great job of explaining this because it's not me that's owning it, but it's a very well thought out plan at the minute, I would say, because a lot of ProfitWell's content performed very well on search. So the risk is moving over. We also obviously had some competing terms because pricing and stuff, we were like, we want to rank for that, but now we're together. So it's very strategic in terms of what we should. So also ProfitWell did a lot of direct consumer stuff. We don't really deal with that. We're like solely software and SaaS as well. So some of it isn't relevant to our audience, but some of it might bring more people to our website. So there's a lot of kind of weighing it up, and then we're doing it in batches. So they've done the first lot and then they'll be doing it slowly. So it's not just pulling it all over. There's quite a lot of process and eyes on it in the background.
How much content are we talking here?
Do you know what? I'm not sure. ProfitWell have a lot of content.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of it. So
big mission.
It's an ongoing project. I think it'll take some time.
Oh, it's fair. So it's very interesting. Thank you. Cool. Do you have any final questions for Chloe? And would you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share about content?
Words of wisdom, I don't know. I think the main thing, it sounds super cheesy, but honestly, the main thing that I have learned in this role and my move into this role is like, do back yourself. If you're like proud of something, if you have a really good idea that you think will work, like to bring it to the table and like you'll get feedback on it, and you have to be open to that. And we all know as content people, you do have to be resilient to feedback, but don't be afraid to celebrate your wins.
Yeah, I love that. Great Great tip. How do you approach giving feedback as well? Like, do you feel comfortable giving feedback, and any tips for giving?
I think, again, it's something that I've probably got better at as I have progressed. It wasn't something that came naturally to me. I remember even when I first used to get feedback on my own writing, like when I was a fresh-faced graduate, I'd take it really personally. But I think when you give and receive feedback, just remember that you're doing it because you want something to be the best it can be. You're doing it because when you're feeding back to someone, you're doing it because you want to help them. You're not doing it because what they did wasn't good, or you don't appreciate that they haven't put a lot of time into something. Go into it with like good intent to help that person improve, but also definitely do it and be direct with it, because it's more damaging not to, because it just lets things build up, or it might mean something goes out that's substandard, which doesn't actually help anyone. It doesn't help that person improve. It doesn't help your content perform. So it's not always easy. Also, just take a minute to really think about who you're speaking to and how they might actually want to take that. Some people might be way more direct in communication anyway, so they can handle it. And I think with content as well, Google like suggestions and comments are great, but sometimes it's easier to actually jump on a call and talk through, because I think particularly when everyone's working at home and you can't just go over to someone's desk and say, oh, I've done this because I think this might work better. I think I do it as well when people leave comments. I'm like, you don't always know how to interpret it. So think if you find yourself leaving a lot of comments, just it might be easier to jump on a call for 10 minutes and chat through, and then people can see that you're like smiling, and you can call out the good bits as well and be constructive with it.
Yeah, it's a really good tip, because it's so easy to get lost in translation, or a comment can seem passive aggressive, whereas if you can verbalize it, it's a lot more human.
You're doing the very millennial thing of putting smiley faces and exclamation marks on everything, so you seem super friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love your tip of like backing yourself. Like, it's very subtle but so important to do. I think,
yeah, exactly. Don't pat yourself on the back too hard, but if you do,
definitely pat yourself on the back a lot.
Yeah, if you have something worth celebrate it, because people will, and people love saying stuff like that. If it's a team thing at the end of the day, there's never a content piece that's just one person. So if it's done well, call out the other people that have done it, call out your designer, your social media manager that shared it, that sort of stuff.
And on that as well, another question: what's your proudest achievement so far since working in content?
Oof, that is tricky. I think the main things for me, I think the handbook that I did earlier in the year, I was quite proud of, because it was a bit of a slog getting there, and the final piece was worth it. I think the main things for me that make me proud are where you've had an idea that's maybe a bit off-piste, and you kind of do the research, you back it, you make it work. So another example would be, I don't know if it would fly now because people are so much more used to video content, but at GoCardless, me and the social media manager used to do FAQ Friday YouTube videos, which was literally me holding a script on a whiteboard and her filming reading the script with an iPhone. So they were very scrappy, but they actually performed really well on YouTube search. And it was just an idea that we had, that we were like, well, we'll try it. And we iterated it. Once we proved that we needed a microphone, we got one and stuff like that. So that's the things for me, where you have an idea that you can kind of run with, and the outcome is kind of what you expected, or better than you expected.
Yeah, where you've just taken that leap, something more creative. That's cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Chloe, for all your insights into what it's like working for Paddle and your career so far. I think that's going to be really useful to anyone working in a similar company. Big thank you from Sophia.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It was really good. And this will get uploaded into the Learning Hub next week. So everyone can watch the recording. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.